charcoal is also produced today. And this pyrolysis process you can also low oxygen combustion. The tricky thing is that if you have this soil with charcoal, this black soil, the opposite will happen. What happens with a conventional soil if you open it? So I talked about the CO2 emissions from soil. And if you have this soil mixed with charcoal, it will absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. So it binds CO2. You have a double effect. Not only the soil will, let's say, bring the CO2 from the atmosphere in the ground, but the plants which you grow will do the same. Until you burn them, then you bring the CO2 back to the atmosphere, but only, let's say, the soil enhancement process will already, let's say, contribute to mitigation of the climate, of the global warming effect of CO2. Here you can see some experiments. So after this fermentation process, what I mentioned, which happens actually without air, then you can have it in piles which are comparable with compost. So you can even start the process on let's say, on a plot of soil. And after this fermentation process is ended, the worms you have in the earth, they recognize, oh, there's something delicious ready for us, and then they will go up and process this material also. And I discussed, for instance, the issue that if you have human waste, I don't know if we discussed that at Steiner. Now the anthropological approach for reusing human waste is that you even should process it, or it should go to, let's say, 7 process steps, or you need like 5 years, because after the digestion process through the human body, all the energy is, even though there are nutrients in it, but from the energetical point of view, it's without any energy. So if you would immediately grow food with it, this food would be not very energetic for you from the spiritual or anthroposophic point of view or perspective. But if you think about, let's say, this fermentation by the bacteria and then the earthworms going through it, then you have a lot of processes already in between. And actually you can apply, let's say, the processed human waste after several months back to earth and grow new vegetables. So you don't have to wait like 5 years. Another advantage is that all the nutrients you have, for example, from the urine, which is a very high concentrated nitrogen source in this black soil, will be not washed away by the rain, because they stick to the charcoal. So what you have actually is a very rich soil, which even when you have a tropical rainstorm, will not lose its fertile properties, which is actually quite important, because in conventional agriculture that does happen. If you apply fertilizer, and if you put too much water on it, it just drains away, and you have all the nutrients in the runoff from the agricultural areas. After testing, producing this terra preta artificially, they did some field tests. What is the result? And at the left you can see what happened with the potatoes they grew in an organic way. They have one potato which weighs more than 1 kilo. So you get really superfood. It's wonderful, delicious, and it's like the plants are getting crazy. And they made also some tests comparing what is the essence of hydroponic agriculture, which is generally practiced in greenhouses for growing tomatoes in Spain, but also in the Netherlands. That you have all the minerals required by the plants, the nutrients in a kind of liquid. And then you grow the plants either on glass wool or on styropor and so on. And they found out that the plants are, that the nutrients and the right mixture is only one part of the story, but the microorganisms they are another part of the story. So the plants grow better even though they have less nutrients if they have the right living earth provided to them. So this is a picture which I took from this book I already mentioned to you. You can download also from the World Future Council, Renew the World. A graph provided by Nick Norrens on how this process can be introduced in a sustainable way. So we can start actually anywhere, but let's start, let's say, with the forest. So you have a forest, wood available, and you work more or less, but you want to create more forest to have also more material, let's say organic material, which you can turn to charcoal, but also burn, in principle, to produce energy. Then you can use the wood chips in this low oxygen combustion process or pyrolysis process to create, on the one hand, energy, and on the other hand, you can process biochar. And here you can burn, produce energy, or you have this char which you can use in production of earth, in agricultural production. Yes, and by using this method and let's say the human waste, you can somehow close the nutrient loop and create a sustainable environment. This is another way to look at it. This is a graph which I produced together with an engineer for a project which is now realized in Berlin for a so-called zero emission hotel, where this concept of integrated resource management is applied on building scale, but in relation to the whole urban metabolism, let's call it that way. So I will just go through it, and some aspects we will discuss later. So what they did in this hotel is that they first took all the water from the toilets, the black water. They did not install the urine separation toilets because they said in a hotel the technology is not as far that it may work without any problems. So they just choose water-saving toilets. Also not dry toilets because it's in that environment we think, okay, we use this one. But what they did is that, or what they plan to do, it's not realized yet, is that the organics from that water will be filtered. And after it's filtered, it will be mixed with charcoal powder and with organic waste from the kitchen. So in buckets, let's say, big part of the shit, and the organic waste and charcoal will be collected. From the men's urinals, the urine will be collected in kind of flexible big flexible plastic bags, so it's different to the system you saw last week with these tanks, and then a truck comes and sucks it out. So here they will be tested a new system where you have, from the wine, when you buy 5 liters of wine, where you have the carton with some plastic in it. So a similar system, but much bigger. The urine will be stored there, and then after 1 week or 2 weeks, there will come the truck and they deliver, let's say, the new beer, the new vegetable for the hotel, and by going back, they just extract the organic waste in the urine container-like structure and carry it away to a site where it will be processed. And depending on the mixture, these materials from the hotel will be mixed with fresh wood chips, because wood chips, then we're really going into the biochemical adjustment of these soils, but the wood chips may be important also to get some of the nitrogen. And sand and earth to produce this black soil. And this black soil can be or will be used for the enhancement of the soil in the whole city area, but also in its hinterland. So that means it can be used for food production, if it's proved that it's safe, and also for energy crop production. So in this fast-growing timber, for example, can be then used again, like mentioned already in the other graph, to produce energy by combined heat and power generators. I will show you a picture that there's already technology available which can do that quite efficiently. But you can also produce biochar in pyrolysis gas again, which you can turn again into energy. Then you, in a city or environment like this, you have already an existing energy grid. So then the produced energy will be, if it's cannot be consumed on its point of production, fed into the grid, and then over the grid, this electricity can be also consumed, of course, in the building where originally these raw materials partly come from. The building could be also connected to a district city network if you have one, and the building will be also equipped with photovoltaic generators, which again are connected to the city grid, so they also contribute to the renewable energy production on city scale. But if you have electric mobility, it can be also charged directly by these photovoltaic generators before you, let's say, sell or contribute the electricity to the grid. The blue one is water and CO2 capture. What I didn't mention yet, that this black soil is not only good to capture CO2, but it can also store a big amount of water. That means this super potato thing, that's in agriculture, in an area where they generally have to irrigate the crops. But due to the very good water storage facility of the soil, you need less irrigation. So they actually didn't take care of the crops. They just planted it on that earth, and then it emerged by itself. And so that can help to cope with droughts, can help to cope with floods, to enhance water quality. So it's really like magic already. It's a kind of religion which appears related to that black soil, because there's so many good properties. That's so far clear?
Only it's not ash, it's the station
charcoal.
before
It's
ash.
charcoal.
Yeah.
So actually you can try doing your own black soil at home. I can also give you, let's say, like a menu. Last year I went to a Terrapeta workshop where 2 different ways of producing that were presented. And also a guy who experimented on his balcony. So you can try it at home, and then you just go. And now the season starts.